Ray, and welcome to episode 7. This episode is entitled The 2025 Astrological NBA Finals Recap. And as you guys know, I'm going to be talking about the NBA Finals, kind of like recapping all of the things, all the talking points that I was throwing out there during the NBA Finals and the playoffs and stuff like that. I didn't have time to sit down and do a proper episode until today. I'm recording this the day after Game 7 against the OKC Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. Today is June the 23rd. And as you can see right here on the screen, I have a text message that I had sent to a dear friend of mine, basically predicting that OKC and Indiana would be in the championship. And this was before, the finals had started. This was actually, I actually predicted this when the 4 teams were still in the running, which were the Knicks, the Timberwolves, the Pacers, and the Thunder. So you can go back and you can check that, May 24th, who was playing, who was still in, all these things, right? So my prediction came true. And in this episode, I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about how I kind of came to this conclusion. But first and foremost, please like the video, please share it, subscribe. And if you would like to book a reading with me, if you're an athlete or even a non-athlete, it doesn't matter. I do offer my services to non-athletes and athletes as well. All of my services are listed on my website, and that information is in the description box. So go ahead and check that out. So let's go ahead and get it started, guys. Let's talk about SGA. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's chart, and then I'm also going to bring up the OKC chart, and then after that, I'm going to bring up Tyrese Halliburton's chart, and then the Indiana Pacers chart in this episode. So stay tuned, grab your favorite snack, your favorite beverage, and let's get into some things here. So let's go ahead and pull up SGA's chart and take a look here. So we have SGA's chart, and there's a couple things that I want to talk about, and how SGA was aligned to, number one, be the NBA's MVP, and then coming into, having OKC. I believe OKC, this is their first championship in franchise history, I believe. And I'm just going to basically be talking about how Shai was aligned for this. So as you can see here, Shai is born on July the 12th, 1998 in Toronto, Canada. I don't have a birth time listed for him. There wasn't one that I could find online. So whenever that happens, I like to use 12 noon. And so SGA's championship astrology goes a little something like this. Because he is a Cancer, and Jupiter is actually in the sign of Cancer now, where it is exalted. Back when he started his playoff run, Jupiter was in the sign of Gemini. And so as it became, closer to summertime and springtime, that's usually around the time the NBA Finals starts, Jupiter started to get a lot closer to his Mars in the sign of Cancer. Okay, so transit Jupiter in Cancer also started to get closer. Jupiter in Gemini started to get closer also to his Vesta in Cancer. So let's talk about those two placements. Let's talk about Mars and let's talk about Vesta. So Mars rules aggression, stamina, sports, how we take action. And it's like divine masculine energy or masculine energy, the courageous energy, how we assert ourselves. And Vesta speaks to focus and sacrifice, okay? Focus and sacrifice, all right? Now, the result of Jupiter coming into, I want to say, because Vesta and Mars is, as you can see in the chart here, 2 degrees is Vesta, and then Mars is 4 degrees. So right around when Jupiter was in a 10-degree orb of Vesta, and then of the Mars placement, his natal Mars placement, that's when things likely started to ramp up. And this was probably around Jupiter and Gemini being at like 24, 25 degrees. And if I could remember correctly, when Jupiter in Gemini was around 24 or 25 degrees, I believe that was in April, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just kind of like guessing. I don't feel like really looking at my software right now, but I can remember clearly, maybe it was like in like April or something like that, or March, where, because I remember that time very vividly for my own personal sake. But anywho, moving forward, basically with this transit now, with, as you can see, Jupiter, and I have the noun chart for today, June 23rd, up on the screen. Jupiter's at 3 degrees of Cancer, and it is in a 1 degree orb of his Mars in Cancer. Okay, and so what this says here, when it comes to transit Jupiter in Cancer in a conjunction to his natal Mars in Vesta, the result here speaks to an unstoppable drive plus injury protection, unlike Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton with Pluto and Neptune. Because as you can see, he still has, on the right side here, you see Pluto in Aquarius in a conjunction to his Neptune in Aquarius. But because Jupiter was in a conjunction to his Mars, right, basically like his stamina and, you know, just giving him that boost of good luck, Jupiter expanded his physical power while shielding him from any injuries. And so this would be considered a rare luck aspect. All right. So that's why he didn't get injured like the others. Unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton didn't have this on his side, and we'll get to his chart in a second. But, you know, he played very smart. He played, you know, with a lot of focus. Again, that Jupiter conjunct Vesta, which indicates focus, play, and these kinds of things. So that's the first aspect that I want to talk about. And then also, too, you got to remember, like, Shay is also a Cancer. And so all you Cancer Sun and Cancer Rising people out there, you are going to be very lucky. The, you know, luck is on your side. And then, of course, if you have Jupiter in Cancer, you're going to be going through your Jupiter return. And so it's a very favorable time for your life, and especially for SGA, very favorable time for his life, for him to be, you know, having such a great season, and then ultimately having such a great playoffs and finals run, if you will. So that's that aspect, okay? So that's the first one. The second aspect I want to talk about is the fact that Mars in Virgo, as you can see here, is in a conjunction with his North Node in Virgo. So his North Node in Virgo is at 2 degrees, and then Mars is at 3 degrees. So it's within a 1 degree orb. And so Mars rules action, meeting his North Node of Destiny in Virgo. And so Virgo speaks about precision and hard work. And so this conjunction would speak to his game reaching fated levels of perfection. Virgo is the perfectionist, okay? And his North Node is Destiny. His North Node of Destiny is to be a perfectionist, so to work hard, to work smart, also, not just work hard, but work smart also. And Virgos, you know, they like to work. You know, he likes to put in the work. He put in the work, you know, this go around, this season actually, because he did become the NBA MVP, and also now the Finals MVP as well. And so Mars, which is about action, and like we said in the other example, stamina and things of this nature, this conjunction would talk about, you know, him hitting clutch shots and being a really good defender and things of this nature. So Mars conjunct his North Node is like giving him a lot of energy too. Mars rules energy. So giving him he had a lot of energy to work hard and be precise and kind of be like a perfectionist. And so Mars definitely helped him with this destined event, you know, becoming, you know, an NBA champion and winning the MVP in the NBA and all those things. So that's the second aspect as well when it comes to SGA, how it led to him having such a great game 7, great playoffs run, and also I'll just keep it there with the finals, because again, we're looking at the noun chart, June 23rd. And so yesterday was game 7. And so again, Mars was still in a conjunction to his North Node. I just want to point that out. So just because we're looking at today, we're only looking at a day later, okay? And Mars, doesn't move as fast as, like the moon and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to get at here is that Mars was still in a conjunction to his natal North Node in Virgo, okay? Now, the third aspect that I want to speak about is Jupiter square Jupiter and the timing of everything. So prior to today, June 23rd, SGA actually had his natal Jupiter in a square to transit Jupiter. Okay, but today that aspect went away where Jupiter is no longer squaring his natal Jupiter. Okay, so timing is everything. So on June 22nd during game 7, and even prior to that, all throughout the playoffs, okay, Jupiter squared his natal Jupiter, which speaks to tension. And with that tension, it can really make you grow. There's a lot of tension that transpires when Jupiter squares Jupiter. But this tension definitely leads to development, because those squares are literally what we need in life, because life isn't easy, right? And this is what the square represents, okay? There's a roadblock here, and I have to figure out different ways of maybe negotiating, or different ways of movement, or different ways of communicating, or different ways of taking action and going about things. So this is what these squares in astrology pretty much simplify, if I can just kind of like explain it like that in like the more simpler terms. And so this goes for this aspect here with Jupiter square Jupiter. The tension that he likely dealt with, because as you can see, he has Jupiter, his natal Jupiter is in Pisces, and Jupiter actually rules Pisces. Now, because Jupiter rules Pisces, that means that Jupiter is in a strong position in his natal chart. And so when Jupiter is in a square to his natal Jupiter, because it's in a sign that it rules, that Jupiter square is not as difficult as it would be for other people who don't have their natal Jupiter in exaltation or in rulership, like Jupiter Sagittarius, those kinds of things. But let's say, for example, he had his Jupiter in its fall. Like, let's say he had his natal Jupiter in Gemini, and he was dealing with Jupiter square Jupiter, right? Let's say that as a hypothetical. Then there would be an issue. Or let's say he had Jupiter retrograde in Pisces. That would be an issue as well, even though Jupiter is in its domicile, because like I said, Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. The modern ruler of Pisces is Neptune, okay? But when we have a retrograde Jupiter, that means that that planet is recalibrating, and it can kind of feel like, bad luck. When Jupiter is in retrograde, you can kind of feel like bad luck. But his is forward moving, it's direct. And so with Jupiter square Jupiter for him, it wasn't as bad. It really kind of flowed. It flowed nicely. He went with the flow. He grew where he needed to grow. He grew his game. He worked on his game. He stayed focused, all those things. There may have been some tension. I'm not saying that there wasn't, but he was able to move forward and, really excel, because Jupiter in Pisces would make you a very fluid athlete as well. Having your natal Jupiter in Pisces makes you a very fluid athlete. And as you can see here as well, the North Node is conjuncting his Jupiter in Pisces. That's also a boost for him as well, literally, right? When the playoffs were happening, and even, throughout the season, because what the North Node does is it retrogrades. As you can see, the North Node in Pisces is at 21 degrees. In a few days, it will be at 20 degrees, okay? The nodes of fate retrograde, so, soon we're going to have, the North Node in Aquarius, in a couple months. But around the time of, January, right? This is why he became the NBA MVP, and he had such a great season, because literally the North Node of fate and destiny was conjuncting his Jupiter, which gives you good luck. It gives you great fortune. It gives you an abundance of like, oh my gosh, everything is falling into place for me. Like I feel lucky. I feel like I'm on top of the world kind of thing, right? And so you got to remember around January 2025, that is when, you know, the North Node was like at 29 degrees and he has his Jupiter at 28 degrees. So, you know, he was having a breakout season to begin with back even when the North Node was in Aries, within a 10-degree orb of his natal Jupiter in Pisces. And then it got a lot stronger when the North Node in Aries was in a 6-degree orb to his Jupiter in Pisces. When I say 6-degree orb, I'm talking 6 degrees away from his Jupiter in Pisces, okay? So the North Node transiting in the sign of Pisces in a conjunction to his Jupiter also made his Jupiter square transit even lighter as well. Okay, guys, so he had the exaltation, you know, on his side, as well as the North Node transiting in the sign of Pisces on his side as well. And so that is also pretty awesome stuff. This is just me trying to like make you guys kind of understand like why SGA is killing it right now, why he was killing it in the season, and how astrology definitely lends to that. The energy of astrology lends to, you know, our life and our map and how things are going to go. So, you know, this was basically his time to shine. It was destined. It's the North Node in Pisces. It was destined. And see now, yesterday, right? I'll say this. Yesterday, the North Node again, still at 21 degrees in the sign of Pisces. Now, for me as an astrologer, I am a stickler for the degrees because the degrees tell me how that planet or that point is going to act. It's going to tell me how that planet or that point, how that planet or that point has that personality. What is the personality of the North Node at 21 degrees? Well, the personality is like a Sagittarius, right? And so what planet rules Sagittarius? Jupiter. And what does Jupiter rule? Good luck, great fortune, expansion, optimism, sports. Jupiter does rule sports, being a good sportsman, right? And so it's like a double whammy of good luck that SGA had as well in this final series and the playoffs and the whole season, especially from when, you know, we had the North Node in Aries. I want to say, if I was saying, you know, 6 degrees, let's go ahead and count that down. I would say probably like 3 degrees, 3, 3, 2, 1, 9, 8. So around like 3 degrees when the North Node was in Aries, around like 3 degrees. That was probably like in December or something like that, right? And then when the North Node retrograded into Pisces, I mean, it was on. I mean, it was just destined for him to have good luck because he has Jupiter in Pisces. It's a strong Jupiter placement to have in your natal chart. You are a lucky person. And it was just his time to shine. Plus, it's like a double whammy with the degrees there. Okay. So let's move forward. I spent a lot of time on that one. Let's move on to the next thing we want to talk about. I'm going to bring it on over to the OKC Thunder's chart. Okay. So let's go ahead and switch there. So right now I have OKC Thunder's chart up on the screen here. And so guys, like I said in the beginning of the video, how the hell, right, did Q, the astrologer, figure out like the Indiana Pacers and OKC Thunder were going to be in the championship back in May when there were 4 teams in the playoffs? Well, this is one of the charts. This is the OKC Thunder's birth chart. So I had to do some research. I had to go and find out when the Thunder was created. And so this brings me to my next point, y'all. You know, when you have a business, you got to be mindful of like when you start your business, you got to look at if you're going to start your business and you want it to be successful, you got to start it at the right time, right? Because fated things can happen on certain points of the time period, like certain years, certain months. And so OKC was born September 3rd, which makes it a Virgo. It makes this franchise a Virgo in the year of 2008. And so, we have the South Node in Virgo right now. So OKC, that franchise, is going through a reversal nodal return. And so typically a reversal nodal return is easier than a nodal return, than a north node return. It's typically like more flowy, and especially for OKC because their north node and south node is, of course, in mutable signs, right? So, there's that kind of thing. Well, not theirs, but what the world is going through. Their north node and south node is actually in fixed signs, but because it's like, hey, we're just kind of like cruising through here right now. As you can see, they have Uranus in Pisces, which is really nice and flowy. The Saturn is in Virgo as well, which is an earth sign, and Saturn rules an earth sign. I mean, these are all things that kind of stick out to me as to why OKC was going to like definitely win it. I also want to point out too, when I looked at back on May 23rd, May 24th this year, I was looking at the noun chart of OKC, the Timberwolves, the Knicks, and the Pacers. And what I saw was that, they just had a better chart than everybody else. I mean, it's just plain and simple. They weren't getting hit as hard as the other teams. The other franchises that were in the playoffs were founded years ago, right? And so what that means is that OKC was the youngest franchise, born in 2008, whereas those other franchises were born in the 1940s or 1970s, 1960s, right? So the Knicks were born in 1946. Let me see. I'm just going to tell you guys. The Indiana Pacers were born in 1967. The Timberwolves were born in 1989. And so OKC was born in 2008. Okay. And so, they had an easier time. And so this is very, very critical stuff. You guys can even like go and find out like how old these teams are just based on what I told you. You take the year that I just said and you just subtract it by 2025 and you'll see like how old these teams are. I'll actually do that right now since I'm on live. I think that'll be pretty interesting. So 2025, let's start with the Indiana Pacers. Let's start there because they were in the championship with them. So if I do 2025 minus 1967, the Indiana Pacers franchise is 58 years old. 58 years old, okay? 58 years old, guys. And then if we go 2025 minus, let's go to the Knicks now. The Knicks is probably like the oldest franchise, which is why, I mean, I get it. That's why people really wanted the Knicks to win. I get it. I mean, there were people like even commenting on my stuff like Knicks in 7, and I'm just like, bro, you have no idea. It's not happening. Like, I know my stuff. It just wasn't meant to be. Now that's not to say that the Knicks can't win another time, but it just wasn't gonna happen. So 1946. That would make the Knicks organization 79 years old. Okay, let's move on now to the Timberwolves 2025. Timberwolves 2025. Minnesota. Okay. 1989. 1989. 36 years old. Okay. So Timberwolves are 36 years old. Okay. Now, like I said, OKC is the youngest team. They're 17 years old. They're 17 years old. Okay. Now, typically, the reason why I bring up the age here, guys, is here's the thing. Right? Now, when you're younger, like you have like a better, just overall, you got your life ahead of you. Let's talk about like in people in like a human form, right? You got your life ahead of you. Everything's gonna go great. You're young, you're vibrant, all the things. And then when we talk about being 18 years old, let's talk about the perfection year of that. So if you're 18 years old, you're going to be in the 7th house perfection year. I think I said 79 years old was the Knicks. So that is going to be, and I'm going to timestamp all this too. It's a lot of information, I know, but I want to make sure that you guys have it. So, you know, like I said, 7th house, let's just start there. 7th house with the OKC Thunder. It's about 7th house is about like relationships, you know, having a good relationship. Good, it's, you know, 18 is like, you know, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you have a party. You know what I'm saying, y'all? This is what it's giving. It's giving that, you know, and they're 17 years old. They're in the 6th house, perfection. So going into this coming year coming up, they'll be 18, but the 6th house rules our day-to-day work and stuff like that, right? So our day-to-day work, our, you know, working hard, paying the bills, our health and all that good stuff. I'm basically just trying to get at, you know, it was destined for this just to kind of like occur for them. Now, when it comes to being 36 years old, I mean, that's Minnesota Timberwolves. That is going to be a 1st house perfection year. 1st house is Mars rule. 7th house is Venus rule. 6th house is Mercury rule, right? So, you know, people wanted the Timberwolves to win as well. They wanted Ant-Man to get a ring and all these things, but it just wasn't quite going to be the play because, again, OKC is the youngest team. You're 17 years old. You're about to go to college, and it's you guys understand what I'm trying to get at here, right? Like the older you get, I mean, you kind of get like washed. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm being real, right? It's like the Knicks being 79 years old, kind of washed, right? Who was the other team? Indiana Pacers. Let me go back and look at how when they were born because I forgot. 1967. So if I do 2025 minus 1967, they're 58 years old. And if you're 58, you're in your 11th house perfection year. The 11th house deals with luck. And that's why they went so far. I mean, people weren't expecting the Pacers to go that far, but they're in a 11th house profection year, which the 11th house not only does it rule luck, it rules friends and groups and alliances, but I told y'all, I believe in one of my other videos that the Indiana Pacers, why I thought the Indiana Pacers would go to the finals, because when I looked at their chart, and we'll get to that in a second, they had all these like elements of working hard to get there, like not giving up. That franchise just wasn't going to give up. Okay. So anyway, back to OKC. Okay. The team was founded in 2008, Capricorn era, which represents discipline, long-term building. And so these transits that were happening right now, you know, definitely gave them a boost up, you know. Now that Saturn is in Aries, I believe that helped as well. When Saturn was in Pisces, that gave them a lot of like team chemistry, I feel. And so that was pretty awesome as well. And then with Pluto and Aquarius, Pluto is in Aquarius, y'all, out with the old and with the new. Pluto in Aquarius literally is talking about innovation, youth, movement, okay? Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever the case, like the younger, the better, right? You kind of old, you kind of washed. I'm just trying to like bring it like in a more human context so you guys can understand, okay? So that's OKC's chart. You know, like I said, it was beautiful. It's still beautiful. It was great. What else do I see here? Like I said, South Node conjunct Saturn. The North Node, listen, the North Node in Pisces in a conjunction to Uranus. Uranus rules like shock and surprise. So like shocking, destined event happening where it like shocked the world that they would be in the finals when people thought, oh, the Lakers, because they got Luka and they got LeBron and Luka on the same team. But like literally, when the North Node of Destiny conjuncts the planet that rules shock, like, oh shoot, I'm surprised they made it. This is the reason why. This is that aspect of as to why. And as you can also see, with transit Mercury in Cancer, we see OKC, this franchise has a part of fortune in Cancer. And now Jupiter is in Cancer. So part of fortune sounds like what it sounds like. It's fortune. Fortune after difficulty. And so Mercury's there speeding things up, speeding up the good fortune. Now Cancer's there. I mean, they could actually probably go back to the finals next year as well. You know, I really do see them doing that because SGA is a Cancer and Jupiter is in Cancer and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Jupiter loves to be in Cancer. And so I think he's also going to have a very good year next year as well. So, hey, you never know. It might be a second ring happening for OKC Thunder because they are a very young team. They got really good players other than SGA on there, and they just really gel well together. Okay. All right. So that's that. Let's move on now to my next chart here, which is going to be Tyrese Halliburton. So I talked about Tyrese Halliburton before, and, you know, him kind of falling short. I remember saying in my TikTok video that he was going to get injured again, and lo and behold, he got injured yesterday. Now, a couple of reasons why I think this is because Tyrese Halliburton's chart is not doing so hot, y'all. It's not so great. Now, let's talk about the injuries at hand, the calf and the Achilles. Now, every single zodiac sign rules a body part. You can Google it yourself. Every single sign rules a body part. And in his case, Aquarius rules the calf, the lower leg, and the ankles. Now, as you can see here, he has his south node in Aquarius. And you can also see that transit Pluto is in Aquarius in an exact conjunction to his south node in Aquarius. So this was actually a fated, unfortunate injury. There's other things that lend to that as well, like the south node in Virgo in a conjunction to his vertex, which also the vertex rules like fated events that are outside of your control kind of thing. Okay. There's also too, we have here the north node in Pisces in a conjunction to his Mercury in Pisces, 12 degrees. He has a Mercury at 12 degrees, which is like, you know, hidden. It's kind of, let me just kind of say it like this. We know Mercury rules movement, right? And so 12 degrees is like hidden movement, like hidden things. You know, Pisces energy can also talk about like being sick or being ill. And so with the North Node being like the destiny point, like where we're destined to go, this is also another like fated transit of his, which would speak to injuries coming out of nowhere with that 12 degrees. Like 12 degrees, Neptune, Pisces energy, it talks about like things being hidden, like you can't really see it, you can't touch it. It's a water sign. Things are changeable. You got to adapt. You got to adapt to how you move in. In his case, Mercury and Pisces, you know, this is why like Tyrese Halliburton isn't really like also considered like a star to some people. Like people would like say he's underrated, but that's because like he's a Pisces sun, and he also has Mercury and Pisces in a conjunction. So he kind of like flies under the radar, kind of like Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is also a Pisces. But the thing about Pisces, y'all, you got to understand, Neptune rules talent, music, acting, people with talent, people who are creatives, people who are like really gifted. And a lot of the times when you are born at like the top of the year, like a Capricorn or like a Pisces or an Aquarius, like you have a stronger, I'll just say this, you have more of a strong potential to be a superstar in whatever field you're in. And so this is the case for Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton. But see, Tyrese Halliburton flies under the radar because he's a Pisces, and Pisces rules hidden things. Like his talent is kind of hidden. It's like, oh, he kind of snuck up on us and he's like in the finals and yada, yada, yada kind of thing, right? Same thing with Jason Tatum. He's a quiet superstar. These are two quiet superstars. They don't boast. They don't do all the like showy stuff. Like you know, like Ant-Man. Ant-Man is a Leo, and this is why he's like a showman. Like Leo is ruled by the sun. Like they like to be in the spotlight. They like the attention. But like Pisces, you know, not really into the attention. It just depends on the natal chart of the person, right? Some Pisces do like attention, some don't, right? Think about our most famous Pisces, Rihanna, right? Rihanna is a superstar, and this is what I'm talking about. Jason Tatum's a superstar. Tyrese Halliburton's a superstar. They're all Pisces, but it's like the kind of like hidden. It's hidden for Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton more so than Rihanna because Neptune rules music, and we know that Rihanna is a musician. She's a singer, and these guys are athletes. But see, they're Pisces. They're fluid athletes. They're really good athletes. The way that they move is like effortless. It's fluid. It's like wow. It's like you don't even see it, and that's why the whole universe, the whole world doesn't really see it for Tyrese Halliburton because he's a Pisces, but he works hard. It's a 10-degree sun. The way that he shows up as a Pisces is like a Capricorn. 10 degrees is Capricorn Saturn energy. He shows up like a Capricorn. I'm here. I've arrived, right? I'm here to like take what's mine. And Mercury in 12 degrees in Pisces is like, you know, I'm moving hidden. You can't even see me creeping up on you. You know, he was shooting these clutch shots, which got them to the finals, which got his team to the finals kind of thing, right? So this is speaking to that, right? And that also speaks to, you know, the injury, the North Node in Pisces and Mercury in Pisces movement, destined, fated, non-movement now. He's not able to move, you know, the Achilles, gonna have to go through rehab, heal that whole thing, et cetera, et cetera. I had also spoke about with the South Node in Virgo in a conjunction to the vortex. And so we know that Virgo rules our health. And so with the South Node of health, you know, in a conjunction to fated events, you know, fated events occurring with his health, you know. There's also a Saturn and Neptune element here as well that's playing out. He has Mars in Aries, and this is also what makes him a very good athlete because Mars rules Aries. So he has a dignified Mars placement. It's dignified, you know, Mars rules Aries, so it loves to be there. However, like I said before, Tyrese Halliburton is going to have to be mindful of how he trains and be just kind of mindful of injuries moving forward. Any of you guys out there who have Neptune, I'm sorry, if you have Mars or any planets in Aries, you know, Sun, Mars, any inner planets, Venus, with Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries, I mean, you're going to definitely have to go through some adjustments. You might not be able to start things the way you want to start things because Neptune is there kind of like making you look at things differently, and it could cause confusion. But then the good part about it is that Saturn is there to help you get more in alignment with how you're supposed to move through that confusion, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So I'll give you an example, right? Like we all know about like the Halle Bailey and the DDG stuff. Halle Bailey is an Aries. So she's kind of getting hit real hard right now with Saturn on her sun sign. It's gonna conjunct her sun sign. So this is the same thing with Halliburton. If we're talking about how he moves, Mars, how he takes action, and then Neptune, the planet of like illness and like hidden things and, you know, confusion and, you know, disillusionment and things of that nature. But then Saturn is right there behind it, like, okay, it's time to do things in a different way because you can't start moving forward without getting yourself in better shape, better conditioning, better training, better eating habits, better movement, right? Because what does Aries rule, guys? It rules the body, the first house of the body, the physical body. So, and Aries does rule the head. When we talk about body parts, it rules the head. It is the first sign of the zodiac. And so with Tyrese Halliburton, it's going to be very, very important for him to definitely make sure when he comes back from his injury I would say this to Tyrese Halliburton: take all the time he needs to rehab. Do not rush, because if he rushes, it's not going to be good, especially once Saturn and Neptune are in an exact conjunction to that 13 degrees. 13 degrees is Aries. It's Aries rule degree, so it is a Mars rule degree. And I kept saying start because Aries is a cardinal sign, and cardinal signs start the seasons. So therefore, cardinal signs are action oriented. They're go-getters, right? Libra starts the fall, Aries starts the spring, Cancer starts the summer. Get my drift? So that's why they're called cardinal signs. They start things. And so I'm worried for Tyrese Halliburton that he might get some confusing information about being able to go ahead and start playing again when Saturn wants him to slow it on down, sit it on down, and, you know, really get that Achilles right, get that calf right. Just take his time. Same thing with Jason Tatum. You know, take your time, because Jason Tatum actually has Saturn in Aries, so he's going through his Saturn retrograde right now. I talked about that in that episode. Not retrograde, sorry, Saturn return, pardon me. He's going through his Saturn return. And so with Saturn ruling the body, Jason Tatum's going to have to learn some lessons around like his body and you know, making sure his body's right and strong and all those things, right? So again, with South Node Virgo, it's a crisis for Tyrese Halliburton. In conclusion, it's a karmic physical test that he's going through with the South Node in Virgo in a conjunction to his vertex in Virgo. And, you know, Saturn and Neptune and Aries creeping up on that Mars. Once it gets in with this 6-degree orb, it's going to be even more tough. So his rehab is going to be tough. It's all on the right side of the leg, the right leg, you know, the calf and the Achilles, all on the right side, that right leg, right Achilles, right? So SGA had an advantage. He had Jupiter on his side to keep him without injury. And so this wasn't just a win, it was a cosmic validation for OKC and for SGA. And, you know, it's just really unfortunate that, you know, Tyrese Halliburton had to be sidelined. Again, like I don't have a dog in the fight. I just knew that OKC would win based on what I saw in May. Okay, so let's move on now to the next chart. We have Indiana Pacers chart. Okay, so when I looked at Indiana Pacers chart a couple of weeks ago now, we're still in June, right? Yeah, time is flying. All right, so we're still in June, but let me go to their chart here on my phone. But you guys can see it here up on the screen. So there's a couple things that I just was like, I don't really kind of see it for them, unfortunately. Now, again, they worked really hard to get here. I will say that. They had some things that were on their side. They had less blockages than the Knicks and the Timberwolves when it comes to the team chart. However, what I did see was that transit Uranus was square Venus yesterday. Leading up to this, we had Chiron in a square to Jupiter, and that's like a, you know, Chiron is like the wound that we have. I believe Chiron, yep, is still in Aries here. Yep. You guys can see that there. I'm sure you can here on the chart. So when we have Chiron and Aries, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to like, oh no, I didn't put the Chiron placement up here. My bad. I'll do that in my next couple videos, but I see it here. I'm looking on, you know, in the back here with Chiron, you know, in Aries, it's like we have wounds around asserting ourselves and taking, let me say this correctly. With Chiron and Aries, it's easy to go back to being codependent, right? So there's wounds around codependency. And so Chiron in Aries wants you to be independent so that you can show other people how to be independent and be like go-getters and like not wait on people and find that sense of interdependence, if you will. And so with Chiron in a square to their natal Jupiter, and they have a natal Jupiter here in Cancer, but it's retrograde, which is a recalibration point of the Jupiter placement, right? This would signify that it's a cardinal square, okay? Because Cancer is a cardinal sign, Aries is a cardinal sign. So what are cardinal signs? It's about starting things. And unfortunately, Indiana Pacers has a retrograde Jupiter in a square to Chiron, transit Chiron. So honestly, whenever I see retrograde Jupiter, I get a little worried for people because you don't have the best of luck. Now, with Jupiter in Cancer retrograde, it still can feel like you have bad luck, even though it's in its exaltation. You could still, feel like I'm good, but it's bad. It could feel like a 50-50 deal, right? And so it was good luck that they made it to the finals, right? Jupiter in Cancer, now Jupiter's in Cancer, that kind of thing, right? Even though, Jupiter is at 3 degrees, it's very far away from even being in conjunct with natal Jupiter here. However, when it comes to Chiron and Jupiter being at odds with each other, it's like this. It's like feeling like, man, I can't catch a break. I don't feel like, I got the stamina. That's Mars energy. That's Aries energy. I feel like, real emotional about this. That's Cancer energy. So it was a very emotional loss that they suffered yesterday. And this whole playoff run, this whole season, particularly the playoff and the finals run, was very emotional for Indiana. They left it all out on the floor, y'all. They left it on the floor with the Chiron Jupiter square. They left it all on the floor. They got, through their asserting themselves, they healed, but it was still that obstacle with the Jupiter square, like just couldn't quite catch a break, just couldn't quite get it going, just not quite. Also, too, you got to remember Indiana is an Aquarius. And so that means that Pluto is at 3 degrees, is retrograde right now, but literally hug your Aquarius friends, because with Pluto going over your sun sign, it's not easy. Pluto rules like intensity, and it can be kind of stressful on the confidence. It could be, like a stress point where it's like, I got to do this, I got to work hard, I got to, it can really kind of stress you out, and then it can cause like self-confidence issues, and it can cause vitality issues, like with the injury to Tyrese Halliburton being a part of this franchise. The sun rules vitality, right? Feeling good, feeling strong. And so with Pluto there in a conjunction, like kind of intensifying the vitality, the confidence of the team, them being really intensely focused. This aspect speaks to them being focused and intense and serious and playing hard and doing what they need to do and playing defense and getting to the finals, essentially. Because remember, Pluto went retrograde like 2 months ago. But prior to that, they were in the playoffs. Pluto was going direct. They were killing it. They were advancing, all those things. But that doesn't mean that it was easy. It wasn't easy. Pluto conjunct your sun sign. That's why I say hug your Aquarius friends right now. They're going through it. I think this week would be probably a bit easier for Aquarius people. But in general, it is a humbling moment for a lot of Aquariuses out there, Aquarius sun sign, Aquarius rising signs, because Pluto wants you to change certain things about your ego and how you carry yourself. And if you're too overconfident, Pluto can humble you, right? With Pluto on your sun sign, it can cause you to like do things that are like really like unorthodox, because Aquarius it rules the unorthodox, the new age, the outside of the box things, internet technology, astrology, all those things, right? Things that are weird. And so Pluto is intensifying the weirdness of the Aquarius energy. Like, so you got to kind of like check yourself. If you're an Aquarius, you got to like check it at the door, like ground yourself. It's important for Aquarius to really like ground themselves at this time, because Pluto wants you to shift some things about how you're expressing yourself. And if you don't do that, then Pluto is going to stress you the hell out, essentially. It's going to make you wish you didn't do what you did, or act the way you did, or come across the way you did. All right. So that's that with that. Okay. Now moving forward, the other things that I saw here, let's see. With, okay, the North Node is in Pisces, also in a conjunction to Indiana Pacers, Chiron in Pisces, y'all. So again, you know, the Chiron placement is like where we feel triggered, is where we have wounds. And the objective with our Chiron placement is to heal that area of life so that we can help other people heal. And if we're talking about Pisces, we're talking about spirituality, we're talking about self-sacrifice, service to other people, being selfless, right? So when we think about Indiana Pacers, they play like a team, but they also have like Chiron in a conjunction to Saturn natally. And so that's really quite difficult and interesting, because they were actually going through their Saturn return a few months ago when Saturn was in Pisces. So that's why when I looked at the chart in May, I saw that and I was like, wow, okay, so they just came from their Saturn return, their second Saturn return now, because again, they're born in 1967. And so when you go through your Saturn return, you got to wise up. You got to work hard. You got to be disciplined. You got to be focused, right? So they had that. So they were actually able to heal, you know, any shadow aspects of the Piscean energy, which talks about, you know, overdoing it or being confused, right? As you can see from their play style, they weren't confused. They knew they were gonna win, and they were gonna play hard and do all the things, because they just went through their Saturn return, this organization, right? They were able to heal being unseen, right? Pisces rules the unseen. There's a Chiron wound there for the Indiana Pacers, where they're a franchise that were unseen. Even though they had Reggie Miller years ago, they had a really great player there, but like that franchise has not been seen as a franchise that is dominant because of Chiron in conjunction to Saturn. So they've had to work hard to overcome being unseen. They had to work hard to overcome and be seen as a viable player or viable franchise in the NBA. And they did that this year because they were going through their Saturn return. When you go through your Saturn return, you go through lessons that ultimately make you stronger and more wiser, more disciplined. You figure out things, you go through the motions, but these are all motions that point you in the right direction. That arrow points you in the right direction. Let's go here, let's go there. Let's go around this way, let's go there. This is how we're going to get to our objective, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So with the North Node here also, you know, it's the destined point. It was their destiny to overcome being unseen, being a franchise that was underrated, being a franchise that was like the laughing stock of like, nah, they're not going to get far. It's going to be the Timberwolves and yada, 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 and the Lakers and yada, yada. But no, the Pacers did their thing. It was destined for them to do their thing as long as they worked hard, and they did with Saturn, right? And that is why they went as far as they went. However, unfortunately, we do have the North Node opposing the Uranus placement, the North Node in Pisces opposing their Uranus in Virgo, which made me see that they weren't going to win the championship. The destined point opposite Uranus. being free to rebel and be the winners. No, it's in an opposition. So the destiny point is going one way and the Uranus placement is going another way. Like, no, we want to do this and do that. But, you know, at some point it was like very shocking even to them that, you know, they suffer these injuries to, you know, their star player and all these things. Very shocking, right? Uranus energy, right? Shocking, couldn't stay healthy, to really like kind of drive it home here. I also saw that transit North Node was opposing their Pluto. Transit North Node opposing Pluto in Virgo. Another aspect to where I saw that wasn't going to happen for the Indiana Pacers. Just not quite the time. However, we see that the North Node in Pisces helped them with the conjunction to Chiron and Saturn. However, opposing malefics like Uranus and Pluto, not a good sign. Not a good sign, guys. Now, again, Pluto in Virgo, you know, is about transforming your work ethic, right? Transforming your health. But see, with the opposition here, it was destined for transformation to a star player, a powerful player. In this chart, Pluto in the birth chart, this would be Tyrese Halliburton. This is how I see it. Now you guys get to see how my inner mind works. In this chart, Pluto, natal Pluto in Virgo would be Tyrese Halliburton, and the North Node of Destiny is opposing him. Pluto rules power. Pluto rules the economy. It rules shared resources. But in Virgo, it's talking about power in our health, power in our wellness. And we see that he was not healthy at the end of it. And Pluto is in a conjunction to Uranus in the sign that rules health, right? And so this is how my mind worked, right? This is how my mind works. Okay. It was a destined, fated event where the best player on the team would succumb to some sort of transformational health issue around this time. Because look how close it is. It's a 1 degree orb opposition. The North Node is at 21 degrees and Pluto is at 20 degrees. It is very, very close. Whenever you're within 6 degrees of a conjunction, that is when the energy gets more potent and more strong. Okay, so that's that. But anyway, I hope that this made sense, y'all. I'm gonna leave it here because I'm almost an hour. I like having like long podcast episodes like this, but I hope that you all got something out of this. You all kind of understood where I was coming from, that this wasn't just luck for SGA. It was a celestial mathematical equation. The Jupiter-Mars alignment, all that good stuff. You know, really good stuff. But OKC's Pluto and Aquarius era, it's just now starting, guys. So don't be surprised if you see OKC in the championship, in the finals, in the playoffs next year. Okay. They have it going. They are the youngest team. I'll bring that chart back on the screen. You know, it's their time. It's all about the new, right? Out with the old and with the new. And OKC is the youngest. I'm not sure if they're the youngest team. I'm sorry, the youngest franchise in the NBA. I'll have to go research that, but it is their time. So don't be surprised if you see them again moving forward, 2026, 27, 28. List goes on and on and on, okay? But anyway, thank you guys so very much for watching this video. I definitely appreciate you guys so very much. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, check out in the description box below. My website is there if you would like to book a reading with me, whether you are not an athlete or you are an athlete. I do readings for all people. So check me out there, listed in the description box below. I'll see you guys in the next